Oh, so far away, Lucas. Here I am in my fact bunker in an undisclosed location. What are we talking about today?
Today, we are going to be talking about a game that you can't even buy.
On PlayStation, at least, anyway. Cyberpunk 2077. So far away, Lucas, to set the scene, we are recording this video on the 15th of June 2021, and at the time of recording, you cannot buy Cyberpunk 2077 on the PlayStation Store. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, yes.
And oddly enough, when we were looking at the Wiki page for today's Wiki weekend, weekdays, whenever these go out, one of the news stories I saw is it may be returning to PlayStation. So editor who edits this one, can you just confirm in the fact bar below whether or not you are able to purchase Cyberpunk 2077 on the PlayStation Store? If anyone's wondering why can't you buy this game on PlayStation, we'll get to that in a moment. But first, Lucas, thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077?
I mean, I feel bad for the developers of the game.
I don't.
Well, I mean, it wasn't their fault, was it, that they released it like a mess? But
that's true. It's management's fault, isn't it? Yeah.
It is
management's fault. They crunched them into fucking oblivion, and we're like, no, it's not a big deal. Crunching's not that big a deal. Well, it is, because you've had a shit game as well. So you crunch for no reason. That's like cheating to get a D.
And yeah, absolutely fuck the people in charge who made those decisions of just.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really run on the consoles. Fuck it, release it anyway. We want money.
Cyberpunk 2077 is an action role-playing game published and developed by CD Projekt. Is it CD Projekt or is it CD Projekt?
I think you got it right the first time. Yeah.
Okay, so the story takes place in Night City. Fuck, that is so fucking boring a name for a city. An open world set in the Cyberpunk universe. Players assume the first-person perspective of a customizable mercenary known as V, who can acquire skills in hacking, machinery, options for melee and ranged combat. The game was developed using the Red Engine 4 by a team of around 500 people who were crunched into fucking oblivion, exceeding the number that worked in the studio's previous game, The Witcher 3. After several years of heavy anticipation, CD Projekt released Cyberpunk 2077 for PlayStation 4, Stadia, Windows, and Xbox One on December 10th, 2020, with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS versions to follow in 2021. It received praise. No, it didn't. Already, why would Wikipedia lie that it received praise? It only received praise from weird nerds on the internet who fucking masturbate into their PC ports. He says here that it was widely criticised for bugs, particularly the console version, which suffered from performance issues. Sony removed it for sale from the PlayStation Store on December 17th. Soon after, CD Projekt became subject to investigations and class action lawsuits for their perceived attempts in downplaying the severity of the game's technical issues before release. And this is one of those open-shut cases to me where the moment it goes to court, all you need to do is just, here's what they said the game would be, here's what the game looked like day one.
They pretty much refused to show console footage before the game came out and just relied on people believing them when they said it runs pretty well. People
are wondering what's going on there. The story goes that game review websites, when they requested a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 to play for their reviews, CD Projekt sent them PC versions only, and told them that they couldn't record their own footage from the game. They could only use pre-approved, pre-release footage they recorded internally on ultra-high-end PCs, and they were not allowed to review the console versions, which ended up being a huge pile of wank. It's like when studios don't let critics see the movies before release, or when movie studios, and this is a thing some of them do, only screen films for just pre-selected critics and influencers who have given their products favourable reviews in the past. And to me, Lucas, that sounds like the most dystopian, not cyberpunk shit ever. There's nothing less punk than just bowing down to a corporate overlord and doing what they say for clicks and money. It's the most anti-punk shit ever. It's so funny. We have here, Lucas, several subheadings. Gameplay, which is seemingly empty. There's nothing here about gameplay, because you can't play the game. What would you like to cover?
Maybe let's just head straight to release and marketing. That's the interesting part about this game.
Release and marketing. And the one thing I want to mention about gameplay is this game looks shit. Even when it's running on a really high-end PC flawlessly, it still looks bad. It looks like a Skyrim mod. And my mind wanders to that really great subreddit that emerged after Cyberpunk was released. Got really bad reviews for being shit, called Low Sodium Cyberpunk. So no salt Cyberpunk, from people who were salty about the game getting rightfully shit on by fans. There's nothing that says we're not salty about this, like making an entire subreddit where you're not allowed to criticise the game. We have here, release and marketing. Cyberpunk was announced, and Lucas, do you remember when it was announced? Just give me a year.
God, it must have been, what, like 7-8 years ago now? So maybe like 2014?
Keep going a little lower.
13?
2012. Trailers for the game were released in January 2013. At E3 2018 and E3 2019, the game was initially confirmed for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And this is the funny thing here, you need to keep these in mind, folks at home. This game was announced in 2012 and was specifically built with PlayStation 4 architecture and hardware in mind. And then when it came out and was really bad for those consoles, I remember one of the defences, because there's nothing more punk than defending a massive corporation shitting in someone's mouth. It was like, well, he was built for PC. It's like, it literally wasn't. And it's like, oh, but it's old hardware, like the new PS5 and stuff like that now. You couldn't make a game like this run on that. It's like, well, Last of Us 2 runs flawlessly. E3 2019, initial release date of April 16th, 2020 was announced. This was delayed to September 17th, then November 19th, and finally December 10th. The developers received death threats over the last delay. So the collector's edition consists of a custom box steelbook figurine depicting a male V. And that, to me, is so fucking funny. That the whole game was sold on its extensive levels of customization, and the default male character just looks like Commander Shepard.
It's bizarre to me that they use like a generic white dude as the kind of poster boy for this game when the entire point is you are your own character, like you customize everything about your character.
And then we said here, Lucas, Funko Pops were obtainable. Oh god no! Nothing says like fucking punk like a fucking Funko Pop. Why do they call them Funko Pops? Come on.
I was about to say, why is it not Funko Pop?
And it says there was a World of Cyberpunk 2077 192-page art book. If you flick through a reasonable speed, would give you the same frame rate as the game on PlayStation 4. It was published by Dark Horse Books. On September 9th, Dark Horse brought out the first issue of a comic book series called Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team. Which presumably is about the post-launch of the game. CD Projekt also held a cosplay competition, a card game created alongside called Cyberpunk 2077 Afterlife. The card game was slated for 2020 but has yet to be released. No updating announcements have been made, and the future of the card game remains uncertain. I didn't even know it was a fucking card game. It says here that McFarlane Toys signed a 3-year agreement to manufacture action figures.
Oh, that's rough.
Ooh, I bet they're regretting that deal now. The Cyberpunk 2077 themed Xbox One X, which included a digital copy and downloadable content, became the final limited edition of that console. So the legacy of the Xbox One X, the Xbox, is just Cyberpunk.
And I find it so funny because the game doesn't even run properly on the One X.
Designed with the same aesthetic as the game were video cards, gaming chairs, energy drinks, sneakers, smartphones, which were exclusive to China, and peripherals. Because nothing says punk like designing smartphones for an oppressive government. From May 2020, advertising company Agora Group had newspapers, online services and radio channels doing promotion in Poland. Their subsidiaries carried out publicity outdoors and in movie theatres, using established brands to disseminate information about the game. Cyberpunk Edge Runners, an anime spin-off collaboration co-produced by Studio Trigger and CD Projekt Red, is slated for release in 2022 on Netflix. Lucas, they were all in.
They were so in, and goddamn, is no one going to care about Cyberpunk by 2022?
And these are the kind of things as well where, when they say they release an exclusive Cyberpunk gaming chair, I kind of want that. I love, all that tie-in bollocks is cringy as balls right up until the game fails horribly, at which point, to me, it becomes a collector's item. Before we move on to post-release reception and controversy, I just want to read a sentence here for people at home so they know how fucking hot this property was before release. The game was highly anticipated before release. It won over 100 awards at E3 2018, including Best Game, Best Xbox One Game, a console they would later, fucking stalwart defenders would be like, oh no, it wasn't designed for. Best PC Game, Best RPG, and People's Choice.
And I'm pretty sure that was all without showing much gameplay.
Any gameplay, yeah. It showed zero gameplay, or at least not gameplay representative of the final product.
Yes.
And that to me just sums up why you should never listen to trade magazines in regards to video games, because they are it got 100 awards for like best game, and it's like it's not even out yet. Imagine this with any other form of media. Imagine like 2 years before a Marvel movie came out, it's like best film. What? Best film? Technical issues and controversy. And this opening sentence is fucking scathing. The release of Cyberpunk 2077 was a high-profile event and was considered a disaster by many. As a result of the game suffering from, and I quote, numerous bugs and performance issues, particularly on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Remember, Lucas, best Xbox One game? The Guardian called the release a shambles. A shambles. Like The Guardian, one of those respected papers in the world, a shambles. While the New York Times said it was amongst the most conspicuous disasters in the industry's entire history, with CD Projekt Red prominently failing to meet expectations of what was anticipated to be the biggest release of the entire year. Because of the game's performance on consoles, CD Projekt issued a formal apology, particularly for their pre-release secrecy regarding these versions. No, lies. It wasn't secret, you lied. You lied about the quality and state of the game, and you sold people a lemon.
As I mentioned earlier, they kept insisting that those versions run well, but didn't want to show them.
This was initially followed by multiple reports of players unable to get said refunds. Oh yeah, so it says here, CD Projekt offered refunds, and then people couldn't get them. And CD Projekt later stated that they had no specific deals in place with either Microsoft or Sony to facilitate such a refund. So again, another completely empty promise. On the 17th of December, so 7 days after release, Sony announced that it would offer refunds to customers who purchased the game through PlayStation Store and removed it from their store until further notice. The Xbox One version of the game remained available for purchase from the online Microsoft Store, albeit with a warning about the game's numerous performance issues. You can buy the game, but I tried this because I was like curious. Like I clicked on Cyberpunk, and before you're even allowed to see what it costs, you get a massive fucking warning saying, "Are you sure this game sucks?"
Oh my god.
And I've never heard about anyone doing that for any other game. Although the game's reviews were largely positive, its aggregate score was thought to be disappointing by analysts. How was it largely positive? How? It didn't work. You couldn't buy it! Having previously asked its employees to work 6-day work weeks for the final months of the development of the game, the company ditched plans to tie developers' bonuses to review scores, choosing instead to pay them full bonuses regardless. Yeah. You make someone work 6-day fucking work weeks and release basically shit on their efforts and work, but just try and make a quick buck, you owe those people something. And Lucas, any final thoughts about Cyberpunk 2077? A game people cannot buy. So the last time we covered like a bad game on this in this format, I offered to send someone my copy of Anthem, which I had at home. I can't do the same for Cyberpunk because I do not own it, because fuck this game.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us even bought the game because we saw what a shambles it was.